Good evening, everyone. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome you this evening to the latest event in our ongoing Distinguished Lecturer series. I'm especially pleased, not just because I'm introducing Theodore C. Van Alst Jr., whom I honestly feel barely qualified to introduce, although I will endeavor to do so in a moment, but because we have also welcomed back UMPI's Voices in the North Country Writers Symposium after too long of an absence. My thanks to Melissa Lazat, a journalist and graduate of UMPI, who was the inevitable catalyst for the symposium's return, even though she herself had never had the opportunity to participate in Voices. As Melissa noted, such experiences are crucial for aspiring writers. It was great to see Ted talk with her over dinner just a few minutes ago. Hearing authors share their stories of challenges and success in writing can help them develop their own unique voice in their genre. It is truly UMPI's obligation to provide such opportunities, especially in today's environment in which higher education and local communities are ever more challenged to do so. But this, frankly, is the work that we are obligated to do, faculty, staff, and alumni alike, and that's why Melissa has my most special thanks for inspiring my institution again to rededicating itself to offering a venue for representing the truly unique and manifold voices of this remarkable region. And now some facts about our first speaker in this year's 2019-2020 Libra Distinguished Lecturer Series. See, there's a Libra in front of it, too. Theodore Van Alst graduated with an Associate of the Arts from UMPI in 2003 and a Bachelor of the Arts in Behavioral Sciences Sociology in 2004. He subsequently received his PhD from the University of Connecticut in what must be record time in 2008, with a dissertation that examined the representations of American Indians in post-World War II German and Italian cinema that we shall never forget. I was only too fortunate to be a member of his doctoral committee and thus witnessed the defense in which he brilliantly wove together discussions of Sergio Corbucci's 1966 film Navajo Joe. Starring Burt Reynolds as the titular character, a role which he would somewhat channel in an altered version as a Yaqui Indian in 100 Rifles 2 years later. And he wove that with discussions of Karl May, Franco Salinas, Orson Welles, geopolitical values, racial configurations, and hierarchical structures of meaning and knowledge. To be honest, I think the English and Cultural Studies faculty at UConn have yet to recover. Dr. Van Alst went on to serve as the Assistant Dean of Yale College and Director of its Native American Cultural Center, the Chair of the Native American Studies Department at the University of Montana, and now is Associate Professor and Director of Indigenous Nation Studies at Portland State University. He has contributed groundbreaking scholarly chapters to two great recent works exploring the representation of Native Americans in cinema, Seeing Red, Hollywood's Pixelated Skins, and Visualities, Perspectives on Contemporary American Film and Art. He has edited Faster, Redder Road, the best un-American stories of Stephen Graham Jones. And he routinely interacts with people who I only read of and taught some essays buying collections such as Nothing But the Truth, from a course I had the honor of sharing with Ted while he was a student here at UMPI. At the core, and tonight we have the distinct privilege of him reading from his latest book, Sacred Smokes, which I have my copy from Amazon, and he has copies back there for those who did not get it from Amazon. At the core of all his work, both scholarly and creative, like a letter that always arrives at its destination, is importance of place and authority of voice and word. These are all facts about our speaker, but of greater importance than these is the amazing, inspiring individual who is Ted Van Alst, equally at home with discussing decolonizing criticism in David L. Moore, John Wayne's Teeth and Sherman Alexie, the psychoanalytic Marxist theory of Slavoj Žižek, and resistance to ideological and narrative appropriation as examined by Elizabeth Cook Lynn, to the spaghetti westerns of the three great Sergios, Leone, Corbucci, and Sollima, to the desert of the real itself in the Matrix films. Ted always explores the intersection of self and, as I've referred far too many times in my classes, the big other, the point of resistance to assimilation and the exploration of agency, and the recognition that even the most apparently quotidian and particularized of our experiences is indeed always political, even if we can't talk about it. And he manages and balances all of this with remarkable wit and insight. I'm just going to do one thing that's I don't think it'll embarrass him too much, but he used to write for the U-Times. I had the privilege of seeing his writing before it got into print, And you may dimly recall the Freedom Fries controversy of 2003, after the chairman of the committee in the House Administration, Bob Ney, renamed certain menu items in the 3 congressional cafeterias following France's opposition to the proposed invasion of Iraq, and then the economic and political maelstrom that kind of followed that. So Ted had this to say about it, just to give you a sense of what he used to write here at UOPI. And he said, "It's a wonder France hasn't attacked itself in a fit of apoplectic rage, a fiery Frankish cleansing storm to rid the country once and for all of the insipid influence of McMouse. Ironic, though, that the global symbol of American cheapery, the Big Mac, is forever paired with the standard order of French fries. Maybe the whole Freedom Fries thing was crafted with De Gaullean deviltry, an attempt by the French to rid themselves of a debasing and luring pairing with the beefy American behemoth. And if that's the case, why didn't the Germans have to plot to manipulate the American Congress into a patriotic refutation of the hamburger? I suppose a halting, vaguely Teutonic concoction called, quote, Liberty sponge meat on a bun doesn't have quite the same pizzazz as Freedom Fries. But hey, we pay these people big bucks to sit around in DC and come up with worse." So with that, gosh, 10 minutes.
I'm so glad Ray fixed my writing. Wow. I'm saying wow, but you know what? I actually wrote wow right here. That's the first one. And this talk is place matters. So I'll get back to that in a second. I think I'm going to get you, Ray. I'm going to get a pen. Because now I have the microphone. I graduated. I have tenure. Sweet. So yeah, that's what I wrote. Wow. I wrote that because I might forget to say it because of the wow. Yeah, it's a true honor to be standing here tonight, and thank you to the Libra Distinguished Lecture Series and the Libra Foundation. I saw that they work to bring together urban and rural communities, and that's a very cool thing. And that speaks to me. As someone incapable of living in the suburban spaces that lie in between, it's nice to know that there's a foundation out there looking out for folks like me. The suburban thing. So whenever we found ourselves in suburbs or malls, actually my wife takes over the driving. I'm utterly incapable of navigating the streets, the rules, the directional thing. It's actually terrible. And I'm not a bad driver, and I know this because I used to drive here from Bridgewater at 60 miles an hour, reading notes for our upcoming class. So I know I'm pretty good at the driving thing. But the suburbs, that just kills me. I'm from away, but both of my kids were born here. They were both born in Tamec. It was pretty cool when Emily was on her way. We lived in Presque Isle, and all my wife wanted to eat was her mother's cooking. So, of course, we had to drive down to Bridgewater all the time. And then when Max was on the way, we lived in Bridgewater, and all she wanted to eat was McDonald's fries. So, can't win. And I was thinking about it today. I mean, you know, Rachel had asked me about, you know, what is the county connection? And my wife's family's from here, her mother's from here. She said, well, how long have they lived here? I said, when Bridgewater was part of Canada. And then the border moved back and became part of America again. So they've been here for a long time. And we moved here in '92, and I had long hair then, you know, and I was like, geez, I can't get a job anywhere, you know. I guess I should cut my hair off. So I cut all my hair off and promptly got a job at Potato House. They didn't care, just don't get anything caught in the machine, right? So I worked at RP Farms, and that was great. And then that was for, how old am I? $4.35 an hour, no overtime. God bless agricultural work. And then I did repos. I was a repo man. I did repos for Stu Dew at Rent Town. You guys remember Stu? There's nothing more personal than trying to repossess a VCR from somebody, and their two little kids are watching the backyardigans or whatever. You're like, you gotta make the payment. So I had real issues with that gig, so I was like, I gotta get out of this whole thing. So I ended up working at Huber. So I worked in a mill, and I started off sweeping up bark 12 hours a day. And I worked there, and because I had managerial experience before, they were like, you want to be a supervisor? I'm like, I can't be a supervisor until I know how to do all the jobs. It doesn't seem fair to me. So ran the debarker, front end loader, and did all that. So I worked on the waferizer deck, all that good stuff that you do in a mill. And then one day, I went to my lead in LC on the waferizer deck. We'll call him Oscar, because that's his name. So I said, Oscar. And he creeped over to me, and I said, geez, man, you gotta be getting ready to retire here pretty soon. He says, yeah, he says, my wife has to tie my boots in the morning. I was like, holy crap, dude. And I said, well, God, how much longer do you have to go to retire? He said, I got like a year to go. And I said, geez, when does your Social Security kick in? He goes, I don't know, like 30 years after that. How old do you think I am? And I was like, how old are you, Oscar? And he said, I'm 39. I started working here when I was 20. I thought the dude was like 60. So I went back up to the deck, and I was like resting tree length through the table saws. I was like, I gotta get out of here. This place is gonna kill me. I started here at 35. Holy shit, I look like a mummy, halfway to retirement. So that's when I decided to go to school. And I found a cool program. It was the Seasonal Migrant Farm Worker Bill, and they sent me to Humvee to pay for my first semester. They were like, you have to get new clothes so you can't dress like that. So I had like baggies and a flannel on. So they gave me a voucher to go to JCPenney. So I bought new baggies and new flannels. That's what I wear. But I started here, and then I found the CLEP program. Where's Gloria? So I found the CLEP program in which you could take a test, and you can get credit for that test. Right, Sharon?
You're right.
30 credits. Got knocked out my first year in 2 days, and she was like, wait, you can't do that. These tests are like, I'm like, no, I'm scheduled. So I did all my tests in 2 days. So that was good. So I got a leg up on things, It's like doing the PhD, master's 2 years, PhD a year. I'm an old man. I got stuff to do. Right? This ain't a career. So I'm kind of from here. My kids were born here. I worked here. So we're going to talk about the importance of place. And I better get back to the top, because I know we're only supposed to be here for an hour, and it's already like 7:20. So thank you to Deb Hodgkins and all the folks who worked so hard to put this together, especially Melissa, and particularly to Rachel Rice. Thank you. Speaking of Rices, Ray. Man. What do I even say, Ray? Like the return of Voices in the North Country, it's been about 20 years, me and you. Except those 2 decades have seen Mr. President there, mentoring, encouraging, writing on my behalf, wearing the same jacket as me, but being a friend. And all of those individual things are exceedingly difficult to find in academia, but to find them in one person, thank you. Thank you, Ray. He's also the reason the title of this talk is Matters of Place. I did it because I figured that the passive voice would piss him off. My working title was Place Matters. But of course, like Ray did around all of our classwork and our assignments, his big face looming over you while you wrote at home or sat at the seminar table in class, right? She knows. April knows. Is he making that face over you right now? Yeah. Did you do your homework? He made me think. And so thinking, as I was now compelled to do, due to Ray's big looming face, it occurred to me that Matters of Place was actually the better title, because sure, place matters, but there's quite a bit more to the place portion of that term, the more covered when one says matters of place, instead of the narrower place matters. But if I was in his class, or his office, more likely, man, I used to bug him all the time, he would say, couldn't you just use place matters here? And wiggle his eyebrows. And I'd stand there for a minute or two thinking, and it would be snowing, of course, making it, I don't know, September. I'm there in my first response paper or essay or something, and then he'd continue, and he'd go, or is there something more you're trying to say? So that's the ticket. That's the key. The more is what we're all after. And I think we need the meaningful more, right? Remember, N. Scott Momaday, right, our Kiowa literary behemoth, said in his Pulitzer Prize-winning Housemaid of Dawn, I'll quote, he said, "The white man has taken words and literature for granted. He has diluted and multiplied the word and is therefore stated and insensitive." I think about that a lot when I write. And we have to weigh our words. I think when we write, think like Ray would have us do about what we're committing to our stories, and think about what those stories mean once they're alive in the world. If they're not ready to get out yet, and they're not ready to go, that can be a problem. Because once you put them out there alive and running around on their own, they can pick up animus and enemy and animosity. Or you can keep them company, tend them, talk to them, make sure they're grown and ready. You know, edit. Edit. Editing is actually a joy. The next tattoos that I get are going to be the proofreader symbols for my fingers. Right? So why is editing a joy? You know why? Shit, that means you've written something, right? Now all you gotta do is fix it. It's getting it out there. But you gotta make sure that you do, right? Because you're not gonna be there with your audience once they receive your words. So you have to tell them everything that you want them to know. You're not there reading along, pointing out this mistake or that one. You know, when you're trying to impress your significant other by playing guitar and you go, oh wait. You can't do that. Right? You can't do that once you've written something, whether it's an essay or a book or whatever it happens to be. Right? You don't have the gestures and the facial expressions and all those things you would do in person. A book is just a book, unless you make it come alive. That's your job. And I think maybe that's why crowds don't go to libraries and stand out front while all the books are inside, right? And the way that they would if there was, say, a guest speaker. Because books never speak. They're only ever spoken. It's the spoken word that is imbued with communal power, I think. However large or small the community is that's gathered to hear the words. Books read aloud become something beyond what they are when they're written. The reading of the book in a communal setting changes the experience of the book. It becomes a process, one which binds via the power of the words to affect the community hearing them spoken. The reading has become an event with meaning beyond the experience of the individual, be they speaker or listener. Now imagine a story in an oral culture, a story, the same story, spoken, not written, not frozen, for ages, to each successive generation, with each speaker and listener imbuing that story with a bit of their own essence. Imagine the power of that story for the people. Imagine being able to tell that story. Imagine knowing that story as you know it and knowing it will change over the generations to come, but will still carry forward some of you and some of the people with you right now. Imagine welcoming that change rather than insisting on a definitive version being written down somewhere. Where is the power in that beyond that according to the original writer? So in the end, it doesn't matter who wrote the story, only that it was written. So know that your story is a contribution to the greater body of stories. And that all we really are is stories. Humans are stories. What distinguishes us from all of our other relatives in this world is our ability to tell stories. Sure, one hunter can tell his fellow coyotes where he found a deer in the woods, but as they make their way toward him, they can't tell each other what the deer might have been thinking that morning before he decided to find something to eat in that one place deep beyond the popples, and how he slipped off the edge of a slippery moss-covered stone on the edge of the creek and snapped his ankle, and now all he can hear is his pack of coyotes making their way toward where he is lying behind a deadfall, shivering in the early evening frost, hoping that they'll pass him by. But we can. So think about what you write or what you say, because after all, place matters. And here in the county, you study, work, and live in a place like no other. Make that matter. That makes me like, I love the county. I really do. I miss being here. And I really think about this place a lot in my professional career. That, you know, that Sharon made me make sure that my transcript was in order. Even as they gave me like freebies while I was applying for grad school. And all of the things that I learned come from here. This is the basis for who I am in the world. And the things that I demand, first of the people that taught me, of the faculty who instructed me, and now the faculty that work for me, are the standards that I encountered here at the University of Maine at Prescott Isle. And when I went to Yale, I said, the things that you have here in theory that sound really good on paper are the things in practice that happen at the University of Maine at Prescott Isle. And so that's the standard for me, what happens here. There is no other place like that. And I've been to a lot of places. Somebody asked me today, how many places have you worked? Why do you keep moving? Because I can't find the one place, right? But now that I'm in charge, I'm going to have the place that I won't have. Right? So I have found my forever home, right? So Ray, thank you. Ray fixed my writing. I went to Chicago Public Schools. We didn't do writing. Right? I had no training beyond being self-taught as a writer. Right? And I read my stuff in punk rock clubs to people who were largely inebriated. But they seemed to like it, so I kept at it. So how did Ray fix my writing? I turned in a paper, probably on Foucault or, Zizek. I turned a paper and Ray was like, you can't do that in academic writing. What? I was like, I said, I do it. I'm a terrible writer. He goes, nope. You're a good writer, but you write backwards. You lead with the conclusion and then fill in the details. That's not how you do that. Then he wiggled his eyebrows. So I look, I just flipped those last 2 sections about him fixing my writing after I wrote them. And I saw your face when I did it. So when I would write, I would put what I thought of as the good stuff up front, right? And then I kind of backtrack and talk about how I got there. So yeah, right then, even though I didn't know it, I had decided on the importance of words in my writing, decided to weigh them, to make them count. Because if I was going to have to sit through my own work waiting for the good stuff at the end, I'd go ahead and try to make it all good stuff, right? So when my son, good luck boy, decided he wanted to write, he's going to be a writer, have mercy on his soul, he asked me for some writers to read. So we went to the bookstore, because that's what you do. You go to the bookstore, not Amazon. But I think the bookstore's gone here, right? No more bookstore. We went to the bookstores. We live in Missoula, and they had a couple bookstores. And I marched right over to the section with Charles Bukowski and Jim Carroll. Shit, I thought. Now I'm going to have to go back and fix the acknowledgments in my book. Because prior to that, I never realized just how important poetry was to me. Poets are the ones who weigh those words in ways that I appreciated more than I knew. So whatever it takes, however you need to get there, make your words count. Whether they're written, spoken, spray painted, posted, tweeted, whatever your particular jam happens to be, think about your words and write what moves you, what compels you. That's that authenticity everyone's always talking about and always looking for. And don't waste your time worrying that you're writing about a place no one knows about or things they've never experienced. Because if you write well enough, the deeply specific can become broadly universal. So I'm going to read a couple of stories for you from very specific places that I hope transcend to the universal. So the stories I want to read, I was kind of struggling, and I wanted to read, I'm going to read this one story that was published, just recently published in the Working Class Studies Journal, because my wife likes it. And if my wife likes it, she doesn't like much of anything. Some days, not me either. But if she likes this story, I'm going to read this story. And then I had another story I was going to read from the new book. I have the second book done. That's what you do, right? They're like, well, we'll send you in advance and kind of motivate you. I was like, oh yeah, that would work. And I'm like, shit, I already got it done. But yeah, you feel good about yourself, press. Just get that check out to the right address. But then my mother-in-law said, you know, that first story in the book, I really like that story. You should make your mother-in-law happy if you get the opportunity. And not by just making the gravy at Thanksgiving time. So I'll read the story from the book here, and I'll read the story for my wife. So this first story is called By the Slice. And you're like, is it about pie? Because I really like pie. I fucking love pie. Yeah, it's about pie. Kinda, sorta. But I really like this story, and I have been keeping it really clean, but there's a lot of cussing here because I have a real potty mouth. I was in the Navy, and when I got to boot camp, they were like, holy shit. I've never even heard those words. I've been in the Navy for 20 years. Words matter. All right, By the Slice. They seemed to be in love, but maybe it was the pecan pie. Even under the buzz of fluorescent lights, pie makes life so much more bearable, enhances everyone's natural beauty. Or maybe one of them was paying the other to be there. Either way, they were a couple for now. She didn't talk so much as she moved her mouth around her words like a sleep clinic escapee. That her brown eyes whirred around as if the batteries which might have operated them were starting to crap out only added to the sense that some technician needed to fine-tune her face, or at least adjust the tracking. Her wide-strapped dress looked homemade, the cream and burgundy floral pattern better at home in a set of drapes than in the wrinkly pile of heavy fabric that crawled across her thin shoulders and crushed her dirty blonde hair, accented her skin that looked more like smoked bluefish than a wrap to contain a human and its attendant soul. He had no trouble talking, or at least making the effort, definitely had tried too hard once anyway, spoke to the wrong people maybe, by the looks of him. His clothes, lumpy and shapeless from the chest down, the grunge of a gray hooded flannel, all olive striped and red-orange piled around his neck, brown hair greasy and splayed on the grubby fabric, belying the clean, crisp earnestness of his speech. His green-blue eyes turning inward and down toward a mouth he seemed to hardly believe could contain so many words, and a tongue so restless. And someone had cut that impulsive tongue of his just so, not in a way that affected his speech, but still in a way that you could see the two split ends fighting to work independently behind his yellowy teeth. And his words came out fucked up, not because they were impeded in any way, but because you were spending too much effort on looking at his moray eel mouth and not enough on listening to what his scruffed and ashy slack face was struggling to say. The two of them mumbled into their fat slices of pie, pecan and pumpkin, the too much sugar of them turning to small points of diamonded glass and glowing crystals under the hot amber lights, and they picked and scratched at each other, just like everyone else in this tired but busy diner. One located not on some grimy street or out there off an endless interstate, but in an urban strip mall, set down in the middle of a city whose main export was probably rain. The chalky stains of 10,000 storms streaking the windows that looked out into misted alleys, and the too close faces of hungry drunks who maybe just wanted a bite or two. The talking wasn't the thing the quiet couple were into, though, and the air around them changed when their hands and fingers touched here and there as they reached for their cold coffee or thin paper napkins, or really each other. Their rustles and murmurs flowing up and into a just visible stream that moved warm air and muffled words and open lust and so sharp smells above the crowded blood-red vinyl booths and past the plastic plants that worked like fading green dust filters and heavy-leafed cobweb holders. What is your fucking problem? He mumbled at her. I'm getting sick. I don't feel good. She mouthed back. You're always fucking sick. His tongue was twisted away. You asshole. Her mouth squished as she reached to pick at the dirty beds of his nails. He smiled and massaged her raw red knuckles with his thumb and first two fingers, his last two raised in a canted peace sign. She coughed and spit up a little, slurred a shy "I love you," and covered the bottom of her face with one hand as she then hacked away for a full minute or so. He never flinched. He just kept rubbing her other hand. "You okay?" he asked. Her rail-slapped chest finally stopped heaving. Yep. She winked and chugged her whole cup of cool coffee. Man, he sighed, and smiling, softly shook his head, blinking at his luck and his love. And she grinned wide, and he could see that favorite flaw of his in her face, her left lateral incisor trying to strong-arm its canine neighbor, those dental imperfections gifted by Creator forever his downfall. Amazing, he thought, almost out loud. Some folks communicate in small, quiet gestures. Others, nah. My mom and dad, well, for dad, that was usually a no. Gesture-wise, there were lots of loud, pinched lips, set jaw, nose breathing. Usually with my old man, though, there was no talking at all. But sometimes there were words like these. Him. Close your mouth, shit for brains, to my 6-year-old brother. Close your mouth when you chew. What the fuck is wrong with you? This to my oldest but still 4-year-old sister on the occasional Sunday when he bothered to eat with us. Close your fucking mouth. Just this. He had a real problem with that mouth breathing thing. Jesus Christ, he liked to say. But my ma, though, lots of gestures. Because she smoked 8,000 cigarettes a day and drank 10,000 cups of coffee. She vibrated through my field of vision. And when she raised a hand, it was like when the picture starts to go out on an old TV, like a black and white Zenith. And when it cracks and whips, the old man makes you wiggle the antenna until it stops. And then you just stand there holding it with your fucking mouth shut. But neither my mom or dad were really communicating. That's not what their words were doing. At least not with each other. Us kids, we knew what was happening. These two idiots were building a prison around us. The walls they put up between themselves fenced us in, closed our horizons, and gave us nowhere to go. They made it colder in the winter and hotter in the summer. Climate dictated misery we tried to be kids in while we wound up proxy waging bullshit battles on their behalf. The fucking cowards, those fucking kids, their damn selves. I laid there shuddering in my narrow-ass bed, which would normally mean January, no, or Chicago's worst fucking month ever, February. But not tonight. Something in the air was different. The whole house was asleep, and it was late in the summer and it's still pretty warm. My ma in their room down the hallway by the front door and just past the little room my two sisters shared. Me and my brother had beds jammed in the enclosed back porch of a typical north side six-flat, the kind that was painted gray, smelled like piss, and had a redneck landlady's son that lived in the basement who sold tick and weed and pulled the legs off of cats, plus wore aviator sunglasses day and night and a leather jacket, no shirt. The light from the moon was huge and the disk in the sky even bigger, like it had been sitting in the alley right behind the garage all day, just waiting for it to turn dark. And now here it was, just outside our window. I thought about reaching my hand out and touching it, but that kind of gesture isn't for kids like you and me, is it? Well, I got out of bed and I walked 3 or 4 steps to the kitchen. The back door was to the right with the chain pulled across, all set, locked up, and the yellowy curling rib shade hanging most of the way down. The little light on the stove was on and I could see the ashtray piled with butts. I listened down the pitch black hallway for a minute, and when no noises came back, I picked out a good size half one and I lit it off the stove like my mom always did. I knew this was one of hers because the old man smoked his almost down to the filter, and those only had a drag or 2 left. That cheapskate son of a bitch. Man, was he ever happy when Old Golds got labeled as generic cigarettes, their unexpected price drop, the only dividend he ever really got in his life. I sat at the kitchen table and smoked that cigarette, no shirt on, but wearing the pants I usually slept in because you never know when you might have to take off. My legs started to trot, and I listened to the clock on the wall click along while I picked at the gold flecks of the Formica on the tabletop, the ones that would never come off, never fade. I don't know what I thought about that night at that moment, but I really wish I did now. What's it like to have 70 or 80 years ahead of you? And what does your mind consider when it thinks it only has 20 or so at the most? What is the weight of the just woke mind, the heft of a world limited on one plane by circumstance and venal authority, but known on another that it's been tricked and lied to and that so much more awaits. I jumped at a noise down at the bottom of the back stairs. It sounded like somebody cracked their shin on one of the wooden steps because the aftermath had more F-words and cocksuckers than a pirate gallery, and that can only mean one thing. The old man was home. Son of a bitch. I quick stubbed out my smoke and tiptoed back to the porch and hopped in my bed. My toes quick scaled down the sheet that I pulled up, tiny lightning storms of static electricity popping where my skin made the circuit with the fabric. I hucked up my feet so the sheet went under, and then I pulled it up tight to my chin and shoved my hands behind my butt. I couldn't cover my face with a sheet or blanket, though, because in my mind, that would make me dead, and I wasn't ready to go just yet. I puffed my long hair off my face with a quick blow up from my lips, then closed my right eye, the one on the doorway side, and rolled my left around, trying to guess what was going to happen next. The old man made it up to our place on the second floor after a while, lots of swearing and tearing. There's the county, right in my words. Swearing and tearing and rustling and stops for drinks from a tall boy or a half pint, whatever he had left from drinking on the L on the way home. The train trying to clack him to sleep, but probably just irritating the shit out of him. I could even hear him say, "God damn it," when I know he burned the insides of 2 fingers trying to pull a cigarette away from his lips where it had stuck, so he could tip the ash that got too long, but for which he was too drunk to go and blow it away without taking it out of his mouth. The double blisters that you get when that happens are a real bitch because the bubbles just rub at each other until you pop them. And then after that, it takes forever for them to heal. Once he got to the back door, though, shit got real quick. He finally got his key in the lock, sure, but the door wouldn't open because the chain. Shit. The chain was on the door. Mom must have got pissed waiting for him to come home and put the chain on. And I walked right by it. I didn't even think about it. Fuck. And now he was pissed. He started trying to sweet talk his way inside. He recounted his love, his devotion, and then his need, his desire. We heard about his job and his family man style, his not missing work, his dedication to his career, his drive to make something nice in this world. Silence from the darkened hallway where their bedroom was. He called on that one God and his son, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Josephine, and Mary Josephine, our grandmas, especially unnamed Ojibwe woman, and then our ancestors, even the grandfathers, his drunken breath and oaths leaning in through the gap in the door. And though it was alcohol strong, it couldn't move or melt the chain that denied him access to our apartment, the sanctuary, and the hearth, but more likely the bed that he so desperately needed, the one he should have been in so he could sleep the sleep of the just, or at least of the drunk. Because that one part, that was no lie. He was utterly dedicated to his work and never missed a day, except when he was in jail, for another story entirely, because I think in the end, that work is what paid for what he really wanted to do, for the thing he felt he was born for that job and that devotion paid for him to drink. But on this night, he thought of someone besides himself, and that someone was my mother. Like all good addicts, to him, the fact that he had thought of someone other than himself should be somehow noted by the cosmos, or that big, beautiful moon, I suppose, and should have escorted him up into the night sky to rest among the stars, I suppose, because the old man had brought home Arthur fucking Treachers. You bitch, I got Arthur fucking Treachers. I got hush puppies, and I got shrimps, and I got Arthur fucking Treachers. So open the fucking door right now, or I will fucking kill you. And then the glass broke under the force of his fist, the bale of his ire, and the fire of his drink. First try, first pop, right through the vintage pane, and he fumbled with the chain. Both my eyes were open now, and rolling around. I could hear him trying to open the door, closing it, opening it, fucking with the chain, and I could not help my dad. And so I walked the 3 or 4 steps to the kitchen and saw a lunatic, a decoupage Indian Orthodox icon of sadness and despair and love, and sour-fogged soul and much nose-breathing and handfuls of greasy brown paper, malt vinegar spilling over the broken glass, and the shattered wood mixing its tang with the peppery copper smell of the red sliding down the heavy milk-white painted back door, sprays of drops and pinpoints everywhere, and his black hair hanging down over his 500-year-old eyes that know how this is all going to turn out, how it would always turn out, no matter the prayers, no matter the hope. And then the bedroom door, the hallway burst open just as he broke through and snapped the chain, and my mom took herself alone and ran out the front door into the night, Lord knows where, her nightgown flashing through the present and into a past, where just maybe she could rewrite all that had happened here, and where maybe next time we get a bigger piece of things, a better slice of all we ever deserved. Those little bits that get taken for granted, dusted across the top of a better morning, one not morning, all of this shit tonight. That's a tough one to read, boy. Tell me what. Thanks, woman. These two have picked the most difficult ones for me to read. The other ones I just talk lots of shit, right? We don't get personal, talk about mom and dad. That's okay. They know my mom and dad. They deserve it, don't they? This story I'm going to read from my mother-in-law. It's called Old Gold Couch. Back to those cigarettes that my dad liked. Old Gold Couch. I think this one got nominated for a prize. I can't remember. Yeah, it did. No, that was the Bumblebee and the Cherokee Heirloom. Okay, but Old Gold Couch is the first one, and it's an important one in the book because it kind of lays out what's happening. We got enough time? I'm reading pretty fast. Am I going too fast, or am I okay? Rhythm's good? All right. Old Gold Couch. My dad smoked Old Golds. He became my pop because I watch a lot of Sanford and Son, and well, Red Fox is the shit, you know. I never told him why I called him Pop until he was much older. He was funny that way. And you know why he picked these girls? Because I have to do old man bifocals, right? I have to look like your grandpa. I never told him why I called him Pop until he was much older. He was funny that way. Here's a good example of his low-key bigot stuff. One day when I was about 16, Pop says to me, "What's the deal there, Fitty?" I'm like, "Fitty? What are you talking about?" He says, "Fitty. You always say, Fitty this, Fitty that. Give me 50 cents. He's getting a little worked up now, and he says, "You dress like a Puerto Rican and you talk like you're black." Shit, he finishes. And I don't know what possessed me. Maybe the Mickey's Big Mouth malt liquor. And I say, "We're going to have a discussion about stereotypes? Do you know where we live?" I keep going. I say, "Look at you, man. We live in the middle of the city. You wear Western shirts and cowboy boots every day. You think Dennis Weaver is going to step off some McLeod in downtown Chicago, offer you a job as an Indian extra on his show?" He says, "Shit," like he always said. But he never said a whole lot else, really. Shit. One time he didn't say a word for 2 whole weeks. What the fuck is that? Anyway, we had lived together since my mom kicked me out of the house when I was 13, a year or 2 after they got divorced. Said to go find an old man and live with him. See if he gave a shit if I kept a gun in the house, and a bunch of other crap that I tuned out. Ma sounded like the teachers on Peanuts, and after a couple of years, looking like them too. I searched all around the north side of Chicago. I found him near Belmont and Broadway. We lived in a few different places on the north side: Roach Motels, converted SROs, dumpy apartments, tiny studios. I was a teenage gangbanger and he was a middle-aged alcoholic, and we were Indians in the city, mostly unmoored and ignorant in more ways than I can count. We sort of had each other, knew each other even less. And when I moved in, the old man gave me 2 rules and a gift. 1, don't get busted because I'm not coming to get you. 2, never cheat on your girlfriend. If you're done, just end it. I never cheated on your mother. Then he said, "Here's a map of Chicago, and don't get lost. I'll never find you." I memorized that map. I can still visualize it clear as day and get to any part of the city I want. Along with that map and the moving out of my old neighborhood and going to school halfway across the north side, I became extremely familiar with every set, every gang, every branch of Latin Kings, Gaylords, Insane Deuces, Mexican Playboys, Spanish Cobras, Harrison Gents, Maniac Latin Disciples, Vice Lords, Black Eggs Disciples, Latin Eagles, Lovers, Counts, Hoods, and all the rest, and the hundreds and thousands, at least from Howard Street on the north to Division Street on the south, and from the lakefront on the east to about Kedzie on the west. I think it's around 24 square miles total. And I learned pretty quick how to draw all of their symbols and shit upside down and backwards. And just so you know, there are a shit ton of gangbangers in Chicago. That's a lot of graffiti to learn. And you better learn how to fight if you don't like to run. Anyway, my pop smoked old golds, a lot of old golds. You have no idea. On weekends sometimes, if we both happened to be home, he would say, hey, let's count. Shit. We would have to count the fucking coupons that came with each pack of old golds. He saved them all. But this wasn't like the Camel, Marlboro, Miles foolishness that could get you a belt buckle or a pool table or whatever. You could buy shit with old gold coupons. His dad, my grandpa, smoked Bel Airs, and those had coupons too. But I don't remember him counting any coupons or getting us to do it. But Grandpa never seemed to be interested in the coupons except for something he got out of the tobacco company. What he was really interested in was the little gold peely things that came off when you opened up a pack of smokes. He would burn them. Well, not burn them, but he would sort of melt them. He would sit at the kitchen table with his big, weird ashtrays, and he would trace his lit cigarette about a 1/16 of an inch along the gold strands. And they would twist and curve depending on his movements. He was like the director of a flea circus or something, with these little curly twists of gold arcing and folding in his orange plastic arena. And the best part was that he wasn't limited to his tiny pastime by the opening of a pack of cigarettes, though that seemed to be a fairly frequent occasion because he smoked a lot. Nope, he had a pile of the friggin' things. Folks would save them and bring them to him. All he had to do was reach behind that dusty bottle of Pinch that looked like a big butterscotch candy on the little shelf that ran out under the kitchen window and take out another whenever he felt like it. And my dad burned those things too. I did as well, of course, but the skills of grandpas tend to get lost in successive generations. Pop burned different things with great success, but he also liked to light stuff on fire. He would burn pine needles in his outdoor ashtray when he got older and moved back to Michigan into Grandma and Grandpa's house after they passed. But when we lived together in the apartment, he would burn coleus leaves in the ashtray. When you touch a dry coleus leaf with a lit cigarette, it smolders and burns and fits and starts like gunpowder. Sometimes he would burn dandelion greens in the tub, but I never figured that shit out. So we counted and counted the coupons. They were green as fuck, but like a minty green. He smoked a lot of old gold, and he'd done so for a long time. How long? When he would buy them in the store, he would ask for 2 packs of old gold filters. That's how. When I would forge the notes that you probably couldn't get away with nowadays, they would say, please sell my son a package of old gold filters. Thanks, Pop. So the coupons. If you go online, you can find some of the old gold commercials and a picture of the coupons. 5 gift stars. In case you don't believe me, I play them for my wife, and she says it even sounds like the old man. There's an HTML tag in here that will take you to old advertisements online. And there you can be seduced by a guy who sounds like a cross between Claude Akins and Alan Barron's baby boy Frankie Bono from Blast of Silence. But if both were like really high on syrup. He says, old gold filters, the cigarette for independent people. Old gold filters, a delicious mixture of rich tobacco flavors. Flavors that never came through a filter before. 5 gift stars. Coupon Saturday. So we're counting away. Stacks and stacks of these friggin' coupons with some rules. Each stack had to be yay high, sold by weight, not by volume. Yay high. And when you were done, you put a little slip of paper on there with the amount of coupons and the amount of points. I think there were some gold gift stars that might have been worth something different, so you probably would have to do some math too. Y'all know, don't you, how many fucking coupons you guys count? A lot. Like I said, stacks. One time the coupons bought us some dishes. And here's where things get foggy or smoky, depending on your point of view. Yeah, so the dishes. I told the story to one of my aunties over the phone a couple of months ago. I won't say she's my favorite aunt in case this ever gets printed, but man, she's my favorite auntie. And she said, I never heard that one. We had dishes. I'm not going to lie to you and say we ate off of paper towels and whatnot, even though that would come later for a while. We started out with dishes anyways. The problem with the dishes was they had to get washed. Hey, Fitty, you gonna wash those dishes? Yep, I say. Well, today, I guess, you better. Another day goes by. Speedy, you gonna wash those dishes? Speedy, you're saying, where did that come from? So when I was a little dude, I wasn't too enamored of the walking thing, so I scooched on my ass wherever I went, and apparently I went everywhere, and I was fast. So why would I bother with some new method of perambulation? So fast, my old man nicknamed me Speedy, and it stuck for a long time. But none of my friends ever called me that. Ever. Yeah, Pop, I'll get him. And this went on for a bit, but you have to know, Pop came home drunk every night, usually about 10:30 or 11 o'clock. And that was good, because the restaurant next to the Roach Motel on Broadway near Buckingham with the Murphy bed that we used to live in would still be open. He would open the door with his soury breath and say, Jeep. And I'd say, no, Jeep. And he'd say, squeaked. And off we would go down to the diner. Do you know what a franchisee is? You should look it up. But in my 14-year-old's eyes, it meant love or something like that. But one night, his breath opened the door and it was only 8 o'clock. Shit. Thought you were gonna do the dishes. I forgot. I'll do them right now. There's a whole fucking sink full of fucking dishes. I'll get them. A whole fucking sink full. I'm getting them. A whole fucking goddamn son of a bitch! Crash! He puts his fist through a sink full of dishes. Again and again and again. Blood and shit is everywhere, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get it. Then he looks at me and his eyes refocus and they get smaller. And he breathes up. That's not good. And then he whips his drunken head around. He says, you don't want to wash the fucking dishes? He says in that falsely calm and controlled voice of the person thinking of unleashing even more. You don't want to wash the fucking dishes? Fuck it! You don't have to! That motherfucker started pulling out dishes from the cupboard and breaking those in the sink, too. Clean fucking dishes. Bam! Coffee cups fly. Cheap but sharp as hell porcelain shards be picked out of the insecticide-soaked carpet, or tile or asphalt, whatever. The apartment was in a building, it was a hotel back at the turn of the century, but had been rented by various chronological contracts for many tired years, for a long time coming. Bam! Plate smashed loud enough to hurt. Bam! 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 There! You won't have to worry about doing any fucking dishes at all. Clean that shit up. And bam! Went the door. Holy shit! My Aunt Jackie was laughing big tears when I told her that one. But I tell it to her a little different. So the other day I was texting my daughter back because she's away at school and wanted to know what Indian summer is. She says there's a song that says something like, you are an Indian summer in winter. And so while I'm writing, because I don't text me back well, and listening to Gordon Lightfoot tell stories from the Chippewa on down about the big lake they call Gitchagooey, I text her back and tell her about Indian summer. And she texts me back in about 1/5 of the time and says, oh, okay, that's been bugging me forever. Sorry, had to ask. Thanks. I guess her mom's not in the kitchen breaking any dishes now, is she? But here's the deal with the dishes. I thought either we'd need to use some of the coupons to buy the dishes that were lost, and then find some dough to buy the couch that we were going to need because my mom had just kicked my brother out too, or we'd be sleeping on the floor and eating off napkins, but that ended up not being the deal. This is what I remember. We had a big coupon Saturday, a good one. Like one of those ones that after the counting we could go to the bar and I would eat caramel corn and drink nasty bar cokes and hear jokes about six-pack Annie until all three would make me sick. We busted out all the coupons, all the shoe boxes, all the coffee cans, and a secret stash of some other ones that I had never even seen before. Some big shit was about to go down. Speedy, we're getting a couch. What? A couch! Clean the shit out of your ears. How are we getting a couch? With these. The coupons, I wanted to say. I wanted to say, with the motherfucking gift stars, old man, can those fucking things buy me some pants that fit? Yeah, the coupons. Jesus Christ, get your shoes on. Where are we going? To get the couch! Jesus Christ. Hold. Making more coupons. No, where are we going to get a couch? At the Nelson Brothers. Shit, I thought by the old neighborhood. That's at Broadway and Lawrence. Gaylords. Uptown rebels. Assorted hillbillies. By the Sears when I got into a humbug with some punk-ass GL from Sunnyside and Magnolia. I pushed him to a rack at Dickies and we beat on each other for a minute. And the old man was like, what the fuck? I told you not to bring me here. And he goes, it's a fucking Sears. I'm like, and he's a hillbilly Gaylord. What do you expect? Jesus Christ. So how are we going to get a couch on the bus? What? They'll deliver it. Yeah. Should I get the coupons? Bring it. And now I say, Jesus Christ, and I smoke. But I think this will get rid of these fucking coupons once and for all. So we got a couch, and the color, it was old gold when we got it new. When I was a kid, I collected hockey, baseball, football, basketball cards, and I wouldn't really look at them, but I would count them and stack them, rubber band them. Stan Mikita, Tony Esposito, Lou Alcindor, Bobby Douglas, Mickey Mantle, Harmon Killebrew, stacked and numbered, banded and dusty. Jesus Christ. Thanks, Paul. Whew. Wow, thanks. I really appreciate that. Thanks, girl, for the suggestion. Any question? It's like there's going to be no Q's in the Q&A. Hey, Max, Poland Springs, boy. You want it?
Yeah.
You can have that, son. Go get the coupons. So that's about place. That's where I'm from. That's like Chicago, growing up in the 70s. The book is really personal, and and when I brought it to the press, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's a book." You guys said you were interested in the book, and they're like, "Is this an autobiography? Is this a memoir?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "No, we can't. You can't do that." I'm like, "Well, then it's fiction. It's all fiction." They're like, "Okay, fiction it is." So, yeah. But you know what? I made there's like a soundtrack for it on Spotify. It's got like Sanford & Son theme song, a bunch of cool shit from the 70s and stuff. 80s, there's even some 80s in there. There's no Lionel Richie, but I think there's a Diana Ross in here. And Venom. And Slayer. And the Beastie Boys and Ice Cube and all that good stuff. That is important to life. I wrote the second one, and then day one option for the third. I'm gonna do more about Gen X tradition, like Gen X take on the Big Chill. But it opens up, and instead of like this guy's funeral, it's like everybody's dead except Joe Frank, the junkie who would not die. This guy in our neighborhood, he's been a junkie since 82, right? The dude's still going strong, so that's gonna be the novel. Should be fun. They're interested. Yes.
Do people enjoy reading your stuff or just enjoy watching you read?
I'm pretty busy. I do a lot of readings. They like it. It's got good reviews. It's got, but I think it's really important to just not stand there and read at somebody. I mean, I know how to read, Tell me a story. Do something with it. Audible asked me to do the audio book of this.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, and so they contacted the press. They said, we're really interested, but writers are terrible readers of their work. So we'll go ahead and we're going to get an actor to do it. Can we have some notes on it? And I said, if you can get Adam Beach to meet up with Dennis Pratt, then you might nail the accent, but one of them's going to have to do Ukrainian. So the press goes, let us just send you some clips of this dude doing a reading and then get back to us. So they sent him, and Audible was like, yeah, he'll be doing the reading. So I'm going to do the reading and we'll get the book out. Should be fun. Should be good. So yeah, so we'll have the Audible, we'll have the soundtrack to go with it. Yeah, the whole package. Gotta make t-shirts. This is the cover. The cover is by a buddy of mine, Lauren Monroe. It's Piccone, a Blackfeet guy from Montana. And he did a really nice job. So I talked to him about doing t-shirts, because whenever I go do readings, people are like, is there a t-shirt for that? So I did. I made a t-shirt for one, and I wore it. I went back to my neighborhood, my people back in Chicago, and I went in this place, and they asked me to come do a reading. So it was supposed to be at Northwestern University, and the Ho-Chunks were like, do it here. So I ended up doing it in the community center. And I walked in there, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this reading. And I was like, oh, who are all these old Indians in here? Holy shit. And I was like, well, all the people I grew up with, you're old too, stupid ass. So I'm doing this reading, and I was like about to do this reading, and they're like, you're among friends. I'm super nervous, right? I mean, because this is my home community, you know. So I have this shirt, and they're like looking at me, and then I turn around, it's like, made it uptown on the back, and they're like, woo, that's right. So I was like, I got them. And then I did the reading, and it was really good. They, you know, it was legit, because they even stopped playing bingo. Right on. This is real. Because I remember going, this has got to be the most Indian reading ever. There's like bingo. Yeah, this should be fun. So they stopped the bingo. So that's how you know you made it. You made it. So, I don't know. I could read more stories, or you can ask questions, or we can go. We're only supposed to be here for an hour, right? It's your house, boss.
Ed, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Smith,
Smith. It's my father. He's just trying to give me a softball, but he's actually going to be really mean. Now he's in revenge. What can I do for you?
I remember the coupons.
Yes.
I'm not that old, but I remember that.
Yeah, you've heard tell of them, as they
But
say.
also, during that time frame in life, there was SMA street sales.
Mhm.
Also Chicago.
But we never ate. My dad did buy food.
Oh, okay. But I find it extremely interesting, having grown up in the city,
Yeah.
not experiencing a lot of what you've experienced, but the parallels are the same
Yeah.
in each one of the cities.
Yeah.
And that's what I found amazing.
Thank you. I think it's interesting, and like the book got an award from an organization called In the Margins, and it's youth. It's young folks who are in the system. They're either locked up, or they're on parole, or on probation, and they encourage them to read, and they try to find books for them. And so they found this book, and they said the Native kids were like, yes, suck it, yes, finally a Native book. And they said, but all the Black and Latino kids were like, this rocks. You know, they talk like us, they walk like us, they have all the same issues as us. And so what you're saying is, you know, it's about class and status. It's about where you live. It's about city. It's about all of those things. It's not about color or any of that. You know, we experience things that I think are universals, you know, and when you grow up in a certain way. And so dependent on who's doing the writing, you know what your TV is about. So apparently everybody grew up in the Hamptons and had, like, you know, white pants or whatever, right? So everything we watch. But sometimes a voice gets through that says no. And I learned from Ray, in taking Ray's classes, and doing, what was the name of that class that we did? Jacobian Dramas, Revengers, and Hot Pants Elizabethans or some shit. But when I teach these, like, intro to world lit, I'm like, think about Shakespeare. What does he write? It's the same shit that we hear now with Grey's Anatomy and LA Law and all that. It's all about doctors and lawyers, professionals. So Shakespeare is writing all this stuff about, like, the professional class, the courts, he's not writing shit about the person who picks up the turds on the alley because people throw their crap out the window. That's not who it's about, right? So we're always sort of oppressed by these stories of bourgeois bullshit, right? All the time. But then occasionally something comes through and it becomes like a big hit. It's a working class, like Roseanne, or like Taxi, or something like that. Oh my God, there are other people in the world besides doctors and lawyers, right? So I used to watch soap operas all the time, and my takeaway was like, nobody works, and nobody ever goes to the bathroom. And I watched soap operas for years, and those two things were what stood out to me. The story was kind of boring, but what I noted was that. So that, to me, was interesting. But the other thing I'm interested in is dialogue, and I write about in the book a little bit. Even as a gangbanger, like, the cops are like, what are you reading? And I'm like, Hollywood Wives. What do you mean? Like, wait, what? I love Jackie Collins. Like, her writing, her dialogue, just like, you know, and I just skipped, because I don't care about, like, rock stars getting blowjobs or planes that car, whatever. I want the story through what people are talking about, right? And so Jackie Collins was the master. So when I teach writing, they're like, what do we read? I'm like, Jackie fucking Collins. What are you kidding me? You need help with dialogue? Boom, there you go. There you go. That's how you move a story along. And so now I'm like, I have to go in and stop and do a scene, like a description, because I'm just like, we move the whole story through dialogue. Because people talk, That's what makes the world go around. You don't sit around and watch the mist curl through the field behind you. Talking. It's great to stop and do that every now and again, but this is where the world happens, words and dialogue between people. So that's what I'm about. Yes, ma'am.
I know you kind of mentioned this before a little bit, but what aspect of being up in the county, your time at Omni, kind of resonates with you most, do you think?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So I worked at a potato house, racking potatoes, bagging potatoes, piling potatoes. It doesn't engage the mind a lot, right? So I went through every album I ever owned, right, both sides, and then all the books that I had read. I was sitting there, this was all playing in my head, right? But what resonates for me in the county is the same sort of thing that happens here in the sort of reviews of the book, and they're like, the book brings to light that people everywhere have concerns about art and about beauty and about all of those things. And I think for me, being in the county and working with people in broccoli fields and in potato houses and working in the mills, that in conversations, they want to talk about what happened on The Wire. They want to talk about like what happened in this book or whatever happened, not books too often, but still books that we had read, and story, all that interests them. And so to me, like, no matter where you are, right, we're all about stories, and stories are important, and we all have stories, and they may be a little bit different, but ultimately, that's all we are, is stories. And so being here, working at Huber, and I remember like corporate came and they're like, well, we'll just give them more hours and they can make more money. And the guys are like, I'm not working, I'm not coming in on my day off. And they're like, well, you make more money. They're like, yeah, no shit, that's how it works. Come in and you make money, but I don't want it. I want to be home with my family. And I told them, I'm like, if they want to make more money, they'll just go work at the mill in Commerce, Georgia. They choose to live here for a reason, because family is important to them, because their time outside is important to them. And I think living in the county really brought that home to me, right? That what family means and what time with your family means. And both of my doofus kids were born here, right? When they get excited and they talk, you can tell they're from the county. Stop saying school. It's skull. Think of the skull at the top of your head, right? So they have that funky county accent. But they love being here, right? I'm walking him around. He's 20-year-old badass. And we walk through Bridgewater. He's like, I can see him. I'm like, right? Because this place means something, right? And so he was born and raised here. My daughter was born and raised here. They have friends here, and it's just because place is so important. And I mean, I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the city, and that's still important to me. I didn't realize until I was about 40 years old. I was like, what is Chicago? I mean, I have a giant flag of Chicago tattooed on my arm. Like, I love Chicago, because that's my res. It's where I'm from. I know every street. I know. When I go home and I do readings, I get in an Uber. The guy's like, whoa, let me take you down. I'm like, shut that off. I said, dude, we're going to take forever. I'm in a hurry. I said, why don't you go down Lincoln Avenue? What? I said, just do it, right? Because I know this place at the back of my hand, right? If I was an Uber driver in Chicago, I would never turn that thing on, except to collect the fares. So the place that you're from is sort of imbued. That map that my dad gave me is imprinted in my head. It's like I can see like the top down when I'm driving in the car, right? I can see myself moving across the map. And so when a place imprints on you, and it kind of determines who you are and what you're about. I'm glad my kids were born and raised in the county. It makes them normal. We lived in places where people are not normal, right? Like places like, Connecticut. People are normal. People in the county are normal. So that resonates with me. I'm glad to have a normal family. They're well-grounded. Thanks for that question. And the education, like I talked about at the beginning, the caring and the just commitment from people. It's just different. Ray's not even from here. Now look at what he's done, right? They made him from here. You're going to care about us, Ray. And he's doing extraordinary work, So it changes you. It makes it. I still talk about the county And not just the price of a 50-pound bag of potatoes either, because I'm outraged with the rest of the country. $6 for 4 russets, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm like, Amy, we can go back and get a truck, like Kramer on Seinfeld. If we go back and get a truck full of russets, we can go to Portland and make a movie. Yes. Yes. I can't believe that was a distinguished lecture. You know it was because of the mums, right? That's what it's really meant a lot to me coming, graduating from here and being able to come back. And I've been to Humpy. I always shill for Humpy. UConn, my grad school, they hit me up all the time for money. And one day I was like, I finally took a call. I was like, look, here's the deal. I have so many loans from you people. And if I swap debt with the country of Zimbabwe, they would be the most solvent place on earth. And like I said, I could live 3 lifetimes. I'm never paying this thing off. But if I ever make any money, you need to know that it's going to the University of Maine in Prescott. That's my actual alma mater. And I never heard back from them. They don't call me or nothing. They must have looked you up, but like, those guys are rugged. They'll come for you. It's all about this place. So thank you for that. It means a lot. And I'm so happy to see Ray like doing things here. Not that it's like a Ray Fest, but it's like, but you know, I know they change, but we hear about you in the rest of the country. And not just me going, hey, look at that. Because I went here and I looked good. But the innovation, the commitment to students is not a real, it's a rarity. It's not something you find everywhere. So this is a real special place. To be able to go to school and work here, and grow cows, like April, or whatever it is, the thing that you do here, man, it's really important. Don't sleep on the county. And Kathy Pelletier, who I haven't heard from in a while, dude, Kathy Pelletier, Carolyn Shute, some of the writing that comes out of this place, wow, it's extraordinary. You know, it's really amazing. So, yeah, it's different. It's the county. It's 1954 a lot of the time, but sometimes that's not so bad. Sometimes that's okay. You know, so I'm just happy to be home. So thanks for bringing me home for a little bit. So, delete me. I'm a real emotional guy. So stop. All right, now the part where I hawk books. I'm shilling books. I got some left on the table. I'll sign them for you, or I'll do whatever. Let me know if you want to buy a book.
No, but we do have, before that,
Is it a Humpy sweatshirt? I never did get one.